Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper died in a snowy Iowa field in an explosive plane crash, and the world was told it was just a tragic pilot error. But that was a lie of omission. The real story is a tale of financial betrayal so deep it forced Holly to fly under terrible weather conditions, a chilling, shared premonition of a fireball falling from the sky, and a loaded pistol found lying in the snow amongst the remains of the disaster. We all remember the image: the goofy, thick-rimmed glasses, the aw-shucks Texas grin, and the revolutionary hiccup vocal style of Peggy Sue. Buddy Holly was sold to the public as the clean-cut, lovable antidote to Elvis Presley's dangerous sneer. But by 1959, that man was gone. In his place was a 22-year-old newlywed, locked in a bitter legal war that had left him with no band, no control of anything, even his own band's name, and, most importantly, no money. The man at the center of Holly's nightmare was his own producer and manager, Norman Petty. Petty was a studio genius, but he was also a financial predator. He allegedly siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions in today's money, in royalties from Holly, adding his own name to the songwriting credits of hits like Peggy Sue to steal Holly's publishing money. By late 1958, Petty had Holly so financially strangled that Buddy couldn't even access his own money to support his new pregnant wife, Maria Elena. The story gets truly chilling here. Just days before the tour, Buddy's wife, Maria Elena, awoke from a vivid, terrifying nightmare. She saw a fireball fall from the sky, crash into a field, and leave a gaping, smoking hole in the earth. At the exact same time, Buddy had his own dream that he was on a small plane, forcing his wife to get off before it took off and crashed. They were so shaken by the shared premonition that Maria Elena begged him not to go. He signed up for the winter dance party, a grueling 24-date sprint across the frozen Midwest in the dead of winter. It was a logistical nightmare from the start. The tour bus heaters repeatedly broke in sub-zero temperatures, forcing the stars to huddle in their coats and burn newspapers in the aisle just to stay warm. It wasn't a tour. It was a 24-day survival mission. Holly's original band, the Crickets, had split from him over the financial war with Norman Petty. For this hell tour, Buddy had to hire a new backing band. His new bass player was a young, unknown radio DJ and aspiring musician from Texas. That man's name was Waylon Jennings, who would soon become a legend of his own. While Holly was freezing on a bus, his main musical rival, Elvis Presley, was comfortably stationed in Germany with the U.S. Army, his fame secure. In the vacuum Elvis left, Buddy Holly had exploded. He wasn't just another singer. He was writing, producing, and engineering his own revolutionary music. Many in the industry didn't just see him as a new star. They saw him as a threat who was single-handedly making the king irrelevant. By the time the tour limped into the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa, on February 2nd, the stars were sick, exhausted, and disgusted. Their laundry was filthy, and they couldn't stand the thought of another night on that icebox bus. Buddy had a breaking point. He made a fatal decision. He chartered a tiny 4-seat Beechcraft Bonanza plane to fly them to the next gig, giving them just enough time to sleep in a real bed and, most importantly, get their laundry done. The small plane had 3 passenger seats. Buddy Holly, who chartered the plane, had the first one. The other 2 seats were intended for his new bandmates, guitarist Tommy Allsup and bassist Waylon Jennings. But as they prepared to leave, 2 other stars, both sick with the flu and desperate to get off the freezing bus, made their moves. This led to the now famous coin toss. The 17-year-old star, Ritchie Valens, was set on getting Tommy Allsup's seat. Valens begged Allsup for it, and after pestering him, they agreed to flip a coin to decide. Valens won the toss, supposedly saying, "That's the first time I've ever won anything in my life." The second swap decided the fate of the final seat. JP, the Big Bopper. Richardson, also sick, approached Waylon Jennings and begged for his spot, as he was a large man and couldn't sleep on the bus. Jennings gave up his seat. This led to a final, haunting exchange. When Holly found out his bassist wasn't flying, he jokingly ribbed Jennings. "Well, I hope your old bus freezes up again." In a moment of gallows humor that would haunt him for the rest of his life, Jennings joked back, "Well, I hope your old plane crashes." At 12:55 a.m. on February 3rd, the plane took off in a blinding snowstorm with near zero visibility. The pilot, 21-year-old Roger Peterson, was a local boy who was tragically not certified to fly using only the plane's older instruments. To make matters worse, the plane's attitude indicator, the instrument telling him if the plane was pointing up or down, was severely out of date. He was flying completely blind into a black frozen void. The plane was only in the air for 4 minutes. The tower lost contact almost immediately. It crashed at over 170 miles per hour, wings down, into a frozen cornfield, tumbling and cartwheeling for 540 feet. The impact was so violent that all 4 men were ejected from the fuselage, killing them instantly. The mystery didn't just stay with the official crash report. It grew. Months later, as the snow in the Iowa field finally melted, a local farmer made a shocking discovery: a .22 caliber pistol thrown far from the wreckage, registered to Buddy Holly. The find poured gasoline on a whispered conspiracy. Was there a struggle on that plane? Did a fight break out? The darkest rumor, which persisted for decades, was that Holly, realizing they were crashing, became hysterical and accidentally shot the pilot. That conspiracy, at least, has been solved. The gun was in Holly's luggage and was thrown clear by the sheer force of the impact. The gunshot rumor. The farmer who owned the field admitted he had found the pistol and fired it, just to see if it worked, tainting the evidence forever. But this solves one mystery only to create another. Why was the clean-cut Buddy Holly carrying a loaded gun? The answer: he was on a tour from hell, carrying thousands in cash after a bitter public fallout with a manager who had stolen his fortune. He wasn't armed for a flight, he was armed for protection. A much darker conspiracy lingered for 48 years. The bodies of Holly, Valens, and the pilot were found tangled in the plane's wreckage. But the Big Bopper's body was found 40 feet away from the crash in the cornfield. The rumor was that he had survived the initial impact and had tried to crawl for help, only to freeze to death alone in the snow. In 2007, the Big Bopper's son, tired of the rumors, had his father's body exhumed to find the truth. The famed forensic anthropologist, Dr. Bill Bass, conducted the examination. The result was even more gruesome than the conspiracy theory. The Big Bopper did not crawl. He died instantly, and his body was thrown 40 feet by the indescribably violent force of the crash. The report stated he had massive fractures and that virtually every bone in his body was broken. The tragedy was absolute, and it didn't end in that field. Back in New York, Buddy's wife, Maria Elena, who was only 2 months pregnant, heard the news of her husband's death on a television news report. The shock and psychological trauma were so sudden and severe that she suffered a miscarriage the very next day. In the aftermath, a new policy was adopted by most police departments. Names of victims would not be released to the press until after the families had been notified. So, who really killed Buddy Holly? It wasn't the 21-year-old pilot. It wasn't a gunshot. It wasn't even, entirely, the weather. Buddy Holly died because he was a 22-year-old kid who was so financially betrayed by the man who was supposed to be his protector. To protect and support his family, he was forced onto a frozen bus and into a tiny, unsafe plane, all in a desperate attempt to get the money he had already earned. The final tragic mystery isn't how he died. It's how the industry he helped build left him with no other choice. Fascinated by the shadows of classic rock? Please help us keep digging up these untold stories by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The mystery doesn't end here. Choose one of the videos on your screen to continue your journey into Rock's dark past. We'll be waiting.